Hi, I'm Emma Kurugravam, and this week we'll be discussing product thinking and ideation. Many product ideas have their roots as general feedback or criticism from stakeholders and users. We're going to talk about how to coach your colleagues to help them brainstorm ideas for your product, interrogate those ideas, and ultimately shape them into a strong product pitch. So first up, where do ideas come from within your organization? Hopefully, you're fortunate enough to be surrounded by passionate journalists with strongly held opinions who are willing to share those thoughts with you. In an ideal setup, great ideas are encouraged at every level of the organization. This means that anyone, regardless of their age, seniority, or position, should feel empowered to give constructive feedback on your news product and pitch new ideas into the pipeline. Not only should they be empowered to make those pitches, they should know how to do that and know what the systems are in your newsroom. There are several good ways to generate new ideas within your newsroom. As the product thinker, it's your job to collect those ideas, keep them organized, and then prioritize and groom them into pitches. But we'll get to that in another video. First, we're going to explore two simple ways that you can use to encourage ideation with the journalists within your newsroom. A simple brainstorming session is a great way to encourage your team to convert their feedback about your news product into creative ideas. Ideally, you'd be hosting a session like this at least twice a year, maybe even quarterly. To start, you'll want to get a room that is big enough for your entire team to fit into comfortably. It's important to invite a diverse group of staff to this session. I like to organize one session with managers and another session with non-managers so that everyone feels like they're in the room with their peers. You'll also want to make sure that you have a good mix of people from different corners of the newsroom, photographers with copy editors, reporters with illustrators, and so on. Don't forget to invite interns and new hires. The people who have been in other news organizations recently will bring a fresh perspective on things. To prepare for a session like this, you'll want to bring some sticky notes and markers. If you have folks sitting at multiple tables, place a small pile of supplies at each table. You'll also want to come up with some light touch guidance, some ways to help your team understand what kinds of ideas and feedback that you were trying to gather from this session. Are you looking for general ideas on the redesign? Capturing blue sky vision ideas for next year's roadmap? Looking for features you can prototype as part of a hackathon? Try not to be super heavy-handed here because you'll want to leave the prompts open to interpretation by the group. You could also try to tie the prompts to your organization's big picture goals for the year. Maybe you already know what problems the product team is trying to solve, and you're just looking for unusual and creative solutions to bring them. So once you've chosen your prompt, give your team about 10 minutes to start thinking about their ideas and writing them down on sticky notes. Encourage each person to come up with as many ideas as possible and to think creatively and outside of the traditional box. Be sure to remind your team that no idea is a bad idea, but that the best ideas will have a strong case to be made for them, and we'll get to that later. Now, split your team into pairs or small groups and encourage them to share their ideas with one another for another 10 minutes. Hopefully, they'll begin to see themes and similarities emerge. Have each small group report back to the larger group on those themes. Each group should take no more than 1 to 2 minutes to share these thoughts. Based on the themes that you hear, ask your team to separate their sticky notes into different corners of the room or sections on a wall to build thematic clusters. For example, all ideas about the CMS should go to the left wall, while all ideas about search should go to the back wall. Another way to design this exercise is to use the from and to framework. This encourages people to take a piece of criticism or negative feedback and describe how they would transform the feature or product. In this instance, instead of splitting your wall and whiteboard up into themes, you would split it into from and to. Next, ask everyone to think of their biggest pain point when using your news products and describe that state in the sticky note that they'll place in the from column. Next, challenge each person to think of creative ways to showcase their to vision states. They may want to use sketches and doodles to show their idea, they may want to use another newsroom as an example, or they may just want to use words to describe their ideal state for the product. Finally, select a few examples that showcase the full spectrum of possibilities and read them out loud to the group to see and hear their feedback. So those are just a few formalized ways to get organized and generate ideas with your newsroom. But what if you want to have a more organized avenue for anyone to share a great idea with you at any time? This is where a more formalized intake or pitch form comes into play. And there are lots of ways that you can set this up. Use whatever technology tools you already have at your disposal. You could use a Slack channel, a Google form, a physical printed or emailed worksheet. Go with whatever is going to be easiest for your newsroom to access and also easy for you to keep organized. How you explain this idea to your team is really important. They need to know that if they're going to take out the time to fill out a form or document, that someone's really going to read it and take that idea seriously. So be honest with your team. Why should they pitch new ideas to you and the product team? What will happen once they submit this document? And what else do they need to help their idea succeed? Check out a few examples of pitch docs in the class resources section. As you design your own pitch document, remember to leave some areas optional so that journalists don't feel like they have to spend hours on an idea. They should feel empowered to make a suggestion and give you enough information to understand the problem and exactly why it should be solved and why it should be solved now. Now you've got your list of new ideas and solutions. How do you decide what to move forward with? In the next video, we'll discuss ways to use empathy and interrogation to evaluate your best ideas and elevate the best ones.